Hey guys, this is Joe Harper with Reformed Truther Ministries. The topic of today's video is Halloween. Now, Halloween is a holiday that many people think is simply about trick-or-treating, candy, costumes, good old-fashioned fun, what have you, but in reality, Halloween is a very dark holiday. It is, in fact, probably the darkest of all holidays that exist on the typical American calendar, and Halloween is a holiday that needs to be exposed because its origins are pagan and its practices are in fact satanic, and it really is not an understatement to say that Halloween is the devil's day and that it needs to be exposed. It's shocking and it's so surprising that we live in a time where even a great number of professing evangelical Christians would partake and celebrate in Halloween, and they would carve the jack-o'-lanterns and wear the costumes, and they partake in the horror movies and all of the evil things that go on as a part of this holiday. And as Christians, we're not supposed to yoke and join together with the things of evil, but we are in fact supposed to expose them and have nothing to do with them. As a matter of fact, Ephesians 5:11 says, "And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them." And this is exactly how Christians need to respond in regards to Halloween, and Christians need to be educated on the truth about this holiday and what it's really about and its connections to occultism, Satanism, and the devil. And even though that's not a pleasant thing to talk about, it's something that Christians need to be informed about so that they are not destroyed for lack of knowledge. There are pagan origins connected to many holidays such as Christmas and Easter and what have you, and it's always shocking how those things there's so much ignorance regarding those holidays as well. But there's no holiday that is darker than Halloween. It is truly all Devil's Day, and that is not an exaggeration once you know the truth of its history and the things that go on during this day in modern times. Now, Halloween has historically been referred to as All Hallows Eve, and is the night before the Roman Catholic holiday of All Saints' Day. Now, don't let this fool you into thinking that Halloween is a Christian holiday or festival, for as a matter of fact, it is not. Its origins predate Christianity in Europe, and it goes far back to ancient times, really to the time of the Druids. And the origins of Halloween is the Druidic festival of Samhain. It's usually spelled Samhain, but it is pronounced as Samhain. Now, for those who don't know, the Druids were the priests and the religious leaders of the ancient Celts. And the Celts were the peoples that lived in ancient Ireland and Scotland, even predating the Roman settlement in Britain. Now, the Druids were not merely priests and religious leaders, but they were in fact powerful witches, warlocks, and sorcerers. And they practiced extremely evil magical rituals, which included, amongst other practices, human sacrifices. Even the famous monument Stonehenge, which is referred to as a megalithic structure, was a religious ceremonial center for the Druids that operated in Britain, and archaeologists have found as many as 4,000 bodies underneath Stonehenge. And there are other megalithic sites in Britain that have been connected to the Druidic religious festivals and practices, and that these people were connected to the occult, to demonic activity, to witchcraft, and the extremely evil practices of human sacrifices. So this gives some idea of who the Druids were, and that these were not Christians. They were not benevolent people. They were involved in very dark and evil practices. And that being said, the festival Samhain was the Druidic festival. It was a harvest festival in the fall time, when they believed that the year was coming to its close, and that they believed that this was the festival to honor their god Samhain. And Samhain was believed to be the Lord of the Dead, which you can hear the evil coming out of that immediately just by hearing that Samhain was believed to be the Lord of the Dead, this ancient god of the Druids. And some researchers have likened Samhain to the Babylonian god Baal, or even to the devil himself. But some argument can be made on those points. But the Druidic festival of Samhain being the origins of Halloween is really not disputed amongst credible historians. All one really has to do is look through a number of credible encyclopedias throughout history. If you go through various editions of the Encyclopedia Britannica, for example, you'll see that this has been very much established history. And as history progressed, it eventually turned into All Hallows Eve and became what we now know as Halloween. And we know that, if those who have studied history know, that the Roman Catholic Church has always made a practice of incorporating the pagan religious festivals and rituals and practices of the religions, and they've assimilated them into their own church, into their own religious system. And this has happened with Halloween, just as it has with all other days, many other holidays that go on throughout the year. Now, some people would counter at this point and say, well, that's all just ancient history. The Druids and the festival of Samhain and ancient history. And they would say, well, that doesn't really have anything to do with Halloween now. Now it's just trick-or-treating and costumes and fun, what have you. But that really reveals an ignorance of the fact that even today, Halloween is the most important holiday for Satanists, Luciferians, and Occultists. It is their high holy day. It is the most important day in their calendar. And the reason why it is so important to them is because this is the day where they believe that the veil, the spiritual veil between the spiritual realm and our world, the physical realm, is at its thinnest, which means that demonic and evil spirits have greatest and easiest access to our world more than any other day of the year. And this is why occultists go to such great lengths to conduct their magical rituals on Halloween, oftentimes around midnight. And they do this because they are more easily able to summon the evil spirits that give them their power, that their magical power comes from their access to the spiritual realm and their ability to summon demonic evil spirits. Now, as a result of their beliefs about the spiritual realm in connection to Halloween, all manner of evil is conducted in secret on this day. And the Luciferians and the Satanists, the occultists, the witches, they will conduct all manner of evil, including high ritual magic, which includes all measure of sexual depravity and even human sacrifices. Now, some people would scoff at the idea that human sacrifices go on in today's day and age, but really it's not that hard to discover that the truthfulness of that claim, even when you just look at the United States, the thousands upon thousands of people that go missing every year, and they never turn up without explanation. That's something that's not covered in the mainstream news and in the media, but it does in fact go on. It takes place. And this is due to the fact that many of these people, there may be other explanations for some of these people going missing, but many of them are abducted by those connected to the secret societies and those who practice the occult. And this manner of evil should make Christians very, very wary of Halloween. They should really have a great repulsive attitude toward Halloween, and we should want to have nothing to do with it. As a matter of fact, we should have an attitude of wanting to pray against it and pray against the evil that goes on this day, and pray that the Lord would expose it and thwart it and bring an end to these evil occult satanic practices. Now, if somebody is still not yet convinced about the truth of Halloween, all they got to do is look at all of the themes that are portrayed in the costumes and in the regalia and in the decorations. When you look at Halloween, everything all of the themes conveyed in it is about evil, it's about death, and it's about the occult. You look at the jack-o'-lanterns with the demonic looking faces, you have skeletons, you have zombies, you have people dressing up as witches and vampires and werewolves and other magical occult creatures. And then you just look at all the horror movies that are with all their satanic themes that are played during the season leading up to Halloween. It's not really that hard to see that this is a day connected to the powers of darkness and occult and evil. And so, as Christians, we should really have an attitude of wanting to pray against this day. We should want to have nothing to do with it. We shouldn't want to bring these things into our homes. We shouldn't want to bring these things into our churches. We shouldn't want to bring these things into our lives. Those who have children should be extremely protective of them and knowing where they are on this day, Halloween, and Christians should be able to, in a way that's wise and helpful and edifying, we should be informing each other about the truth of this day. We shouldn't be being passive just because we don't want to deal with the raised eyebrow of those who don't want to hear about these dark things, but we should be willing to share the truth in love and speak the truth in love, and we should be teaching our children to be wary of this day, and that we should be teaching those to pray against it in a time of spiritual warfare. So we really need to be not destroyed for lack of knowledge. We need to not let ourselves be caught up in the worldly spirit of the age and letting these themes of a sinful world in this nation that we live in to lead us to compromise and to let these things come into our lives and into our homes. But we should be praying against these things as Christians and not allowing the devil to gain a foothold in the lives of those who profess to serve the Lord Jesus Christ. So, as I always say, guys, this is a topic that's important. It's something that's worth looking into. And so I would just encourage somebody who's never done any research on this to just take some time. It's really not that hard to learn about the Celtic and Druidic origins of Halloween. It's not hard to find its connections to paganism. And it's not hard to find out what people who are connected to the occult believe about this day. You don't need to do a deep dive and get super caught up in these things to just learn enough to realize, okay, this is evil, this is not good, I don't need to have anything to do with it, and that's sufficient. So, as I always say, I just encourage people who have not looked into this, have an open mind, have a Berean spirit, pray, take these things to the Word of God, take these things to the Lord in prayer, ask for wisdom from on high, and have discernment to not be caught up and deceived by the schemes of our great spiritual enemy, which is the devil. That being said, this is Joe Harper with Reformed Truth Through Ministries. God bless.